Welcome back to Your Future Home, brought to you by Rocket Mortgage. When you want to plan your home purchase with certainty, Rocket can. Now, weddings, kids, and homes are three of the biggest steps for a young couple as they begin their futures together. Here on Your Future Home, we're not as qualified to talk to you about marriage and babies, but we do know a thing or two about buying that first home together. So joining us now is Laura Adams, Senior Real Estate Analyst at Aceable. And Laura, what are some tips for young couples looking to buy their first home?
Yes, thanks for inviting me on the show. You know, I would say one important thing is to discuss the risks. What's going to happen if you don't manage the home in an agreeable way? Maybe one person has a financial hardship or, even you break up. That's super important to think about before you go into such a big investment together. You might even think about an ownership agreement. So laying out things like who's going to be responsible for what, the percentage of ownerships, maybe even who's going to get to claim home-related tax advantages. And also, how are you going to title your home? This is the way your deed will be written. And so if you're not married, you've got two choices. You can be tenants in common. This is where each person gets an ownership percentage that would actually go to their beneficiary if they died. And the other option is called joint tenants. This gives you the right of survivorship. So if one of you were to pass away, your right and your ownership of the home would go to the other person. So these are all really important kind of legal and management things to consider.
All right, so that's very interesting. So what are some things a couple must have on their to-do list before they even begin their house hunt?
Yeah, I would really talk about how you plan to finance the purchase. Are you both going to be on the mortgage? How's your income, your credit status? What's your responsibility for the mortgage going to be? Remember that you're not legally responsible to repay a mortgage unless your name is on it. So are you both going to be on it, or is it just going to be one of you? And closing costs, we've talked about how those are going up, and down payment costs. Will you contribute equally, or are you going to have different percentages of contribution? Also, what are your non-negotiables? What are the things you've got to have in the home? Maybe the number of bedrooms, having a home office, or being close to public transportation. All of those things you need to kind of work out and discuss before you go out and start shopping.
Wow, so does the market still exist for starter homes? And what should you make sure a starter home has before you even buy it?
Yes, there are still starter homes, thankfully. I mean, even though prices for those homes are going up in most parts of the country, one thing that you want to make sure that you don't do is buy a low-priced home just because it's low priced. If it's in a poor neighborhood, that may not bode well for the future. You may not be able to sell that home down the road. So maybe a better strategy would be to buy, let's say, a fixer-upper in a better neighborhood, closer to amenities or good schools, that will have the opportunity for more price appreciation down the road.
So which aspects of the home would you not compromise your budget for?
Yeah, so besides location, I definitely would not compromise that. You may want to think about things like, what are you looking for in the home in terms of space, requirements for the home office that we talked about? Do you need storage? Maybe one of you has just a ton of clothes and items to store. You're going to need to make sure you've got a place to do that, a garage, all of that good stuff. And also thinking about the layout of the home. It needs to be functional. So you don't want to compromise kind of the everyday functionality of the home just because it's a low price.
All right, so what are some common first-time home buyer mistakes to avoid?
Yeah, a big one is overpaying. I think a lot of new home buyers get so excited about their new home. They really start envisioning their lifestyle there, and they end up kind of stretching their budget a little too far. So I would make sure that you know what your budget is and you're not paying too much. Also, they tend to underestimate repairs, ongoing expenses, all the things that you're going to have to do to keep the house in good shape, all the things you've got to pay for, like insurance and taxes, all of that is super, super important. And another thing that we know is some buyers are even omitting things like inspections in order to get that pass through. That's not a good idea. We don't recommend that. Otherwise, you may be really surprised by unexpected repairs later on.
Absolutely. And most successful house hunts begin with a good real estate agent. So how can you make sure you find the right real estate agent for you?
Yeah, it's super important. They're going to help you make the right bid. They're going to help you negotiate properly. They really can be your best friend when we're talking about buying, such a big investment. If you want to learn more about how to choose a good agent, I would recommend visiting aceable.com. They are an online education platform. They specialize in real estate. So that's a great place to get some unbiased help. You might also ask friends and neighbors if they have recommendations for a good agent. And, if maybe you're thinking about investing as a career, or you're, maybe going into real estate, you might want to think about getting pre-licensing. So getting some education can really make you an expert, as you go into this home buying process. I do want to mention that aceable.com has a fantastic 30% off package on pre-licensing, and they're doing it over Halloween. So from October 29 to 31st, using coupon code SPOOKY30, you can get a coupon for pre-licensing. It's a great way to just kind of boost your real estate education.
Awesome. Laura Adams, Senior Real Estate Analyst with Aceable. Laura, thank you so much for being with us.